live right now from the studio before I start my day work-wise and cover what's going on with ICE over the past couple of weeks. There's been some rumored reports coming in of ICE using children as bait, reports coming in of ICE following school buses now, and then even most recently in our breaking news, of course, Alex Pretti, I guess was his name, a man who was, of course, dealt with rather appropriately, in my opinion, in Minneapolis just a few hours ago by ICE. And what we're really seeing here is the consequences of the Biden administration on full display. This is all a result of the Biden administration. We can never forget that, and we can never allow liberals to create and form the narrative that we adopt as fact. Biden allowed millions upon millions of immigrants to flood into this nation, and now we are the ones tasked with cleaning it up. This is what the Trump administration was voted to do, mind you. This is a mandate of the Trump administration to deal with immigration. It's actually so popular that even some Democrats, though I'm sure hardly any at this point, originally supported this idea of deportations, of getting out these illegal immigrants from our country. And so I want to cover these topics one by one and go over them because one of them is patently false. The other one is very iffy. And then most recently, of course, the breaking news, which is Alex Pretti. I have the article pulled up here. I'm going off of AP News. It says federal immigration officers shot and killed a man Saturday in Minneapolis, drawing hundreds of protesters in a city already shaken by another fatal shooting weeks earlier. The details surrounding the shooting weren't immediately clear, but Minnesota Governor Tim Walz said the person was shot amid the Trump administration's immigration crackdown. A hospital record obtained by the Associated Press that a 51-year-old man who was shot by immigration officers had died. This is, of course, Alex Pretti, and what we're seeing here is, once again, this tragedy, right? We just had Renee Good, who was also shot and killed not too long ago, and people were calling that a tragedy too, and that's what really actually upsets me first and foremost about all of this. This is not a tragedy, okay? It's not. I don't view what's happening here as a tragedy. I view what happens here as sheer stupidity. These people, and now the ante has been upped, by the way, and this is what we're continuously seeing with liberals when it comes to them defying the Trump administration's agenda overall when it comes to immigration. And this is actually one of my problems that I have with the Trump administration, mind you. It's actually on the Trump administration to deal with this more appropriately than how they've been dealing with it. It's not appropriate for us to be looking at this from the angle of, oh, this is too extreme. We need law and order in this country. Flat out. We need law and order in this country. I used to be a libertarian as a very young man, as a teenager. And this was during a time, of course, when the Middle East wars were occurring. And this was at a time where being a libertarian almost made more sense, I think, in all honesty. Being a libertarian then meant I want to be fiscally conservative, but socially people should have rights and freedoms. And being a libertarian means freedom. Freedom triumphs everything. Freedom is the most important. Now I've gotten older. Now I've survived liberal chaos in the form of the Biden regime. And I've gotten to see exactly what it means to not have law and order. And now I've realized that freedom is not actually the most important thing to champion here in the United States. Law and order is. And without law and order, there's nothing else. There's nothing else to have in a nation. A nation without law and order descends into pure chaos and madness. And so that's what we're seeing with ICE. ICE is the law and order that we so desperately need. And yes, ICE is law. ICE is law and order. ICE are federal agents. There's all kinds of Reddit threads out there now. Oh, they're not actually police officers. Yeah, the fuck they are. And if they give you a command or a lawful order, you actually do have to listen to it. There's all these Reddit threads. I have this article pulled up. This is another one. And this is not a coincidence, mind you. I just had read this article, by the way, yesterday, and I had planned on making a video that wasn't live about it because I was going to say it was going to lead to a problem. Lo and behold, fast forward literally 24 hours after reading it, and we have Alex Pretti, the guy, the liberal activist, civilian, whatever you want to call him, who decided to bring a gun with him to observe ICE agents and protest them, is now killed. This article right here from The Mirror USA. Arizona Attorney General suggests that residents may gun down masked ICE agents if felt threatened under state law. and it's Arizona Attorney General Chris Mayes, Chris spelled with a K, and Mayes, Mayes. She warned that the stand your ground law, which allows citizens to use deadly force if they believe they're in imminent danger, could become a recipe for disaster. It says Arizona Attorney General Chris Mayes has wildly suggested that residents can open fire on masked ICE agents if they feel their life is in danger, citing the state's self-defense laws. But the Democrats' jaw-dropping comments have sparked outrage from critics who fear her words could incite violence against federal officers. And what's happened since this article was put out? What we just saw in the breaking news today. Alex Pretti brings a gun with him to observe ICE agents. By the way, if he was only observing from the recommended safe distance when it comes to law enforcement, this would have never happened. But Alex Pretti went there with a much more sinister agenda, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So for the media to be calling this what they're calling it, another tragedy, another Renee Good tragedy, neither of them are tragedies. Neither of them are. These were two idiots who, by the way, were both white. Can you imagine being a white person living in Minneapolis? You've been watching your cities and state be flooded with immigrants from all these other countries. You're living in a state that is being taken advantage of by foreign invaders who don't belong here and don't live here. And you decide, you know what? I'm going to lay down my life for foreign invaders who aren't actually even citizens here. Can you imagine that? That's called being a traitor. That's literally called being a traitor. That's what Alex Pretti was. That's what Renee Good was. And to be honest with them, I'm glad they're gone. And let's not forget something here. When Charlie Kirk was assassinated, they celebrated it. Liberals loved every second of it, and they make jokes about it to this day. So to all of them, I say, I wonder, does Renee Good's face hurt still? Yeah, I'm getting spiteful like that. These people, according to the Bible, let's go with the Bible, Romans 9, they're vessels of wrath fitted for destruction, and that's why their behavior is the way that it is. That's why they do the things that they do. Their purpose is destruction. They sow dissent and chaos, and they fulfill their purpose, and God takes them from us. That's really what this is. Now, this article here, during a sit-down with 12 News anchor Bram Resnick, Mayes warned that Arizona's stand your ground law, which allows citizens to use deadly force if they believe they're in imminent danger, could become a recipe for disaster if protesters clash with immigration officers. She said, it's kind of a recipe for disaster because you have these masked federal officers with very little identification, sometimes no identification, wearing plain clothes and masks, calling ICE very poorly trained. And again, all I've got to say to you is what wound up happening after that. Alex Pretti went there with a gun. Did he happen to see this article? Probably not. But this is what the liberals want, and they encourage it with these news reports. This is what they do. They throw the narrative out. They say, these ICE officers are masked. I mean, that's not good. And if people feel threatened, I mean, I think that they might have some sort of a legal loophole to really respond to that threat. This is what they do. They plant the seeds in their easily gaslit Democrat voters, and they allow all of it to unfold afterwards. It's all part of their plan, all of it. And the liberals just follow through on it because liberals are emotionally led people. They disregard their logic entirely, and they strictly go off of how they feel. And how they feel, as a result, is easily dictated by what they're told and what they're willing to believe. I see we got some views coming in on the live stream. Please get the likes up if you're agreeing with the messaging here. Liking the stream really does help promote it in the algorithm here. And as you can tell, the algorithm is not a fan of me. I'm at war with most algorithms where I make content for this reason. My messaging is the truth, and most people just can't handle that. Drone in construction, FDT. I don't even know what that means. I don't even know. I kind of know. I just don't really give a shit. Drone in construction. Anyways, back to this man shot in Minneapolis. After the shooting, an angry crowd gathered and screamed profanities at federal officers, calling them cowards and telling them to go home. One officer responded mockingly as he walked away, telling them, boo-hoo. Good. Agents elsewhere shoved a yelling protester into a car. Protesters dragged garbage dumpsters from alleyways to block the streets, and people who gathered chanted ICE out now, referring to immigration and customs enforcement. Here's the deal. Here's what we're seeing, by the way. and this is why I said I'm critical of the Trump administration. We need to see more strict law enforcement. We need to see strict consequences handed out in the aftermath of events like this. When I see videos of people protesting ICE and throwing bricks at them, throwing rocks at their cars as they drive around, I get so beyond angry as a young man. And we are far too soft on people that commit these kind of crimes. This is an American empire. I say this all the time. We are certainly a constitutional republic and we need to remain that way internally. But right now, our entire country is at stake. It has been invaded by tens and tens of millions of foreign invaders that were allowed in here by Joe Biden primarily, and now we have to get them out. And in combination with the resistance that ICE agents already meet from these foreign invaders who obviously don't want to leave this country, now they have to deal with the resistance that oftentimes turns violent in the forms of easily gaslit, low IQ liberals who literally think that ICE is the Gestapo. It's so fucking stupid. It's so stupid. And, these liberals are just allowed to preach this narrative to these voters. They're allowed to rile up their base, and then they sit back and they watch the aftermath. This is called stochastic terrorism. And I made a video about this on this channel a long time ago, many months ago, and the YouTube algorithm absolutely throttled it because they don't like words like terrorism, first of all, but second of all, they don't really want people getting familiar with the word stochastic terrorism. They don't like that term, but that's exactly what we see out of the Liberal Party. People like Gavin Newsom, Tim Walz, they rile up their base, and they do so with their words. They do so preying off the freedom of speech, right? And then they play innocent. Oh, I didn't mean to incite violence. That wasn't the point of this, That wasn't the point of it. Who was that other guy, Mark Kelly? The senator, disobey unlawful orders, military, disobey unlawful orders. I didn't know what I was doing was potentially telling the U.S. military to disobey the commander in chief. I was just reminding them they have the right to disobey lawful orders. We need to stop tolerating that. We need to stop allowing liberals to exploit these loopholes. That's what we need to do. And if that means getting more strict when it comes to law enforcement, if that means going door to door in some of these cities, these sanctuary cities that outright protect illegal immigrants, then so be it. It's high time we stop allowing the liberals to exploit these loopholes, and it's high time we just exploit. I'm just going to say it. Exploit the power that the conservatives have currently. Get it all done. Get it all done right now while we can before it's too late. The liberals will continue to play this game. They'll continue to hinder us and resist at every level. And then they virtue signal off of stuff like the Constitution as if that's ever something they've ever fucking cared about, except for when it suits them. Taking a look at some of these comments real fast. I have run out of the very big tampons I was handing out to the haters. Hell yeah. Hell yeah, Arnold. You're the kind of guy I want subscribe. Be sure to subscribe and turn notifications on, Arnold. You're the exact kind of guy I want here on this channel. I'll say this too. Preach. Yes, BB9. Yes. You as well. You're very welcome here. Crybaby, says Neon Monk. 1970. You know what I can tell about somebody like a Neon Monk? I can tell that their hair is dyed blue. I can tell that they have about 150 disgusting, really poorly done tattoos all over their body. I can tell they have their septum pierced. I can also tell that they're just not sure what gender they are. And I can also tell you, I want them to block this channel, get off this page. It's not for them. This is a channel for American advocates who love this country and who want all foreign invaders deported, right? If you're blue, if your hair's blue, if you're 400 pounds, you don't know what gender you are, please block this channel. Get off this channel. It's not for you. Anyways, the whole point of this first segment here was to say that we have Arizona attorney generals that are Democrat, by the way, riling up people and planting the idea that, ICE agents wear masks and sometimes they're not easily identifiable, so you have a right to defend yourself. Then we have people like Alex Pretti who shows up, pretends to be an observer, violates the space, crosses police lines, instigates them, and then at the very end tries to pull a gun on them and ultimately meets his most deserved fate ever We have Renee Good, who impedes ICE with a car, and then everybody's shocked when she pays the price for it, as she literally rams into an ICE agent while she's trying to flee the scene afterwards. And all of these disgusting liberal virtue signalers, all of them, crying about it all the time online, as if they weren't just making fun of the death of Charlie Kirk just a few months ago. The hypocrisy. It's so disgusting, but also simultaneously so amusing to watch. It's like watching a little child throw a temper tantrum. There, little boy. There. It's okay. It's okay. These are called rules, and we have to enforce the rules, don't we? That's how we got to talk with liberals. Otherwise, they just don't understand it. Mike Anderson, what's up, man? Now, I wanted to get into the next story here. I'm seeing this pop up right here. School official says she saw detained 5-year-old boy's papers as she claimed that ICE was following school buses. This is also on the Mirror US, themirror.com. And according to this article, over the last few weeks, ICE agents have been roaming our neighborhoods, circling our schools, following our buses, and coming into our parking lots multiple times and taking our kids. And you know what I say to that? I say, good. I voted for that. Quote me on that. Record it. Put that everywhere. I voted for this. This is exactly what I voted for. You think a 9-year-old who's here illegally is going to be spared from deportation? Or a 93-year-old abuela grandma who's been here for 20 years and committed no crimes is going to be spared from deportation? I make no mistake about it. I want every single fucking one of them out of here. If they're 8 years old and they are born here to illegal parents, they got to go with their parents. Get them out. They don't belong here. And if they're 93 years old, they snuck in 40 years ago. They've been so good. No, I don't give a shit. They broke the law by coming here illegally. It's only a misdemeanor, though. It's still a law. They broke the law. They're illegal immigrants. Out they go. This is what I want. Okay? Every illegal immigrant that's here is partly part of the problem that our housing market's inflated. Every illegal immigrant that is here is partly part of the problem for why our real wage growth hasn't grown as much as it should. Every illegal immigrant that's here is taking up space, taking up resources, and preventing actual American citizens from finding work. You throw in the combination of how AI is replacing all of our jobs, and you start to realize that the average white man living in America is being utterly replaced, if not by illegal immigrants and foreign invaders, then by technology itself. We're getting royally ass blasted here in this country, and people are out here crying. Some of our own, Alex Pretti, a white man, shows up with a gun to protest ICE deporting people who don't belong here from other countries. That's what it means to be a liberal nowadays. It's traitorous. We have to focus on ourselves. And by the way, I will say this. I'll put this disclaimer up right now. America is obviously not just for white people. America is for anybody who was born here to legal American citizens. And going forward, we need to shut down the border entirely. We need a immigration moratorium for the next 10 to 20 years, ideally 20 years. And we need to stop allowing any immigration in here whatsoever while we domestically fix this fucking country. 100% true, says Arnold. Thank you, man. Thank you. Generation X, a scientist. You mean scientist as in CERN? I'm not here to talk about CERN today, but I do like reading about CERN from time to time. Look at the CEOs' pay increases over the last 10 years, bozo. Yeah, of course the CEOs get their pay increases. I'm not a crony capitalist over here. I am a free market capitalist, though. And in some regard, I think CEOs should give themselves pay raises if their companies are doing well. You're not meant as a low-level employee to be making a fortune, okay? Get the fuck over it. You want to do well in life? Start your own business. That's what really life is all about here in America. You're supposed to work for somebody else. You're supposed to work your way up. You're supposed to build experience. You're supposed to get an education to some degree somewhere, not necessarily in a college. You're supposed to use your money and save it when you can, and you're supposed to be able to go out on your own and do your own thing. That's the opportunity. That's why so many people come here. Every Chinese person I know here owns a fucking Chinese restaurant and serves the best ass Chinese food I've ever tasted. American Chinese food. They got it down. They don't have any problems adapting here. I don't see too many Chinese immigrant criminals or homeless Chinese people. But when you allow people to immigrate here from all these other countries, the Somalians, do they open up tons of businesses here? No. And if they do, they're fucking daycares that are defrauding the government. As I was saying, keep the border closed for the next 20 years. That's the most ideal circumstance. And then when we decide to reopen it after we've deported out every foreign invader, whether they're 9 years old, 20 years old, 40 years old, 80 years old, 110 years old for all I care, we reopen it, we need to start being a lot more selective when it comes to who we allow in this country. This country is not for everybody in this world, and we don't owe everybody in this world. We don't owe anybody in this world other than our own citizens who pay tax dollars for all kinds of bullshit, and they're not even getting represented. So Somalians in the future, banned. No more immigrants from Somalia, ever. Get them out. Other countries, we need to take a closer look at our immigration. We need a complete immigration reform. And so when I see ICE agents following school buses, all of this is to say this, when I see ICE agents following school buses, so what? What's the problem? Tell me that, honestly. Tell me in the comments down below, what's the problem with that? Is there a problem with that? I know this is partly traumatic for children. I understand that. But I'm thinking purely logically. I'm not a liberal. I'm not basing my feelings off of something based off of feelings. I'm looking at the equation logically. Trump is doing that. The Chinese do adapt. Yeah. Now, I will say, I need to put another disclaimer on that. Trump's whole H-1B visa thing, Trump's whole let's let tons of hundreds of thousands of college students into this country to keep colleges in business, completely disagree with that. That is horse shit. Complete horse shit. If businesses are going to go out of business, part of capitalism and free market capitalism is allowing them to go out of business. Just a side tangent rant there. We need voter reform first. We do need that too. I agree, Mike Anderson. I completely agree with that. Voter reform. Well, voter reform, Generation X, that would be a few different things. First of all, we need voting security. We need to make sure that our votes actually count and that our votes aren't being defrauded, that our votes, that you can't cheat during the voting process. That much we do need. I think, is that the SAFE Act that they're trying to pass in Congress right now? Show ID for starters, absolutely. I'll take it much more steps further. When we talk about voter reform, Mike Anderson, not that this video is supposed to be about this, but let's discuss it. When we talk about voting reform, we need to take a closer look at who can vote. Not just from an ID standpoint to make sure illegal immigrants aren't voting, because there's already been examples that have proven that some of them were. But we need to also make sure that some people, even citizens in this country, shouldn't be able to vote. I think we need to go back to more of a principled stance where you need to own property in this country. You need to have a stake in this nation in order to be able to vote. And I've been very radicalized on that over the past year or two, I'd say. Yes, let's shred the oh, shut the fuck up. Idiots. Video, whatever. Let's shred the Constitution. What a fucking retard. By the way, the Constitution only matters to you now. It didn't really matter during COVID, did it? Right? That was going to be my other main point here. Everyone's so mad about ICE going door to door. Everyone's so mad about ICE wanting to see papers, please. But I don't remember liberals putting up a fuss when it was vaccine papers, please. Can you prove you're vaccinated? Oh, you can't? Looks like you're not welcomed in this business because we only want people in here who aren't wearing a mask, and so you have to be vaccinated, and if you're not, you're going to have to go to a different location. I was told that in person. It wound up changing who I ultimately did business with during that time period, and liberals were all for it. It was for the betterment of society. Well, guess what, bozo? I've got fucking news for you. I've got major fucking news for you. This is for the betterment of society. Deporting all of these immigrants. Get them all out. This is how we preserve America. We have a culture here, by the way. Us Europeans, we are the culture. We've established a culture here, and they come in and they change our culture. They overrun our cities, and the first thing they do when they gain a majority, like in Dearborn, Michigan, they start changing the street signs to names after their own heroes. Osama Siblani Way. Osama Siblani Way. That's an actual street now in Dearborn, Michigan. Get them all out. Get them all out. And we need to be even more strict with the legal citizens here, by the way. If they break a law, revoke their citizenship, deport them. They should be on, no pun intended, thin ice. Do you feel violated when you walk into 7-Eleven without a shirt on and they tell you to leave? I don't do such things because guess what? I'm not an immigrant. I have decorum. Culture is hot dogs and NASCAR. Yeah, hell yeah. Hell yeah. And you can't tell me otherwise. And that's just part of it. But you don't see any of that shit overseas. None of it. You know, some of these people we're allowing into this nation, their culture is literally eating shit, throwing crap to rivers and polluting them, and doing absolutely nothing but worshiping false gods. Absolutely not. This is a Christian nation, and it's time we get back to Christian nationalism. And one of the ways we do that, first and foremost, we take control of the education system. We push people back towards religion. We stop ignoring what we were taught as kids. Don't force your religion down people's throats. That doesn't work. That just doesn't work. Nice messaging. This is. Do you hear yourself? Like, did you chop your dick off a couple weeks ago or something? Nice messaging. This is how fascism starts. This is how fascism. Nice messaging. Wow. This is how fascism starts. God, I can't imagine being such a pussy. Culture is forgiveness for wrongdoing, a path to redemption. You know, Christian concepts everyone takes for granted. Yeah, I'm here to preach a much different Christian message. I'm sick of the Christ is love message, okay? Christianity is a lot more than that. Christianity is a rigid religion. It's meant to be followed strictly. And we haven't been doing that in this nation. We are called to be the salt of the earth. Do you know what that even means? It doesn't mean flavor, because if God wanted us to be flavor in this world, he wouldn't have condemned homosexuality, right? Those are the people with the flavor out there, the zesty ones. The salt of the earth is to preserve. Salt was used as to preserve food. That's what salt was good for. We're supposed to preserve the earth. We're supposed to preserve society and its morality. And we've ultimately failed doing that as Christians and as the church because we've decided to tolerate everything. We've decided to tolerate all of these immigrants coming into our lands. They throw all of these phony Bible verses at us that don't actually mean what they say they do. Be kind to strangers in your land. That was written at a time when it was much more nomadic for people in periods of time. They were traveling through countries to get to their destination. It wasn't completely unheard of back then, at the time that that verse was written, for people to have a destination, and rather than going around a country through a desert to get there, there was an already built society in a nation. They traveled through it. And that Bible verse was written as a reminder, hey, these strangers in your land, be kind to them as they pass through them. Not be kind to them and welcome them as citizens forever. Nowhere in the Bible does it say that. In fact, when Jesus walked the earth, borders were prevalent. Empires existed. And God respected those. End of story. If you trusted your faith, you wouldn't force it on people, ye of little faith. I hardly force it on anybody. I just force it from the perspective of I'm going to live that way, and I'm going to demand that my government also start living that way as well. Our Constitution was built off of religious principles. Anyways, that's really what I was coming on here to say. There's not much more to say about this other than the fact that law and order needs to be reestablished in this country, and the Trump administration needs to start establishing it. And really needs to start establishing it. Shows of force. Whatever the liberals do forcefully wise, whatever show of force the liberals show, it needs to be multiplied by 10 and dished back out to them. That's my stance on this. We must have law and order in this nation. And that is the most important part about being an American, is living in a society with law and order. Without that, we have nothing else. Everything descends into madness. I love you, man. Thank you, Arnold. I appreciate you. MAGA says, hey, what you say? Welcome. LOL. Not really buy. Huh? You can't force faith, but you can enforce laws that have their roots and principles given to us by Christ. Exactly. I believe in people's rights to not be Christian in this country, but I also believe in enforcing all of the laws that were built off of Christian principles in this nation as well. Because if it weren't for those, where else does morality come from? Morality is determined by society, right? And if you don't have something concrete that society can embrace for morality, then you just make it up as you go, and that's just total horseshit at that point. Rule of law will not be enforced by the likes of Patel, Bondi, or others in the admin now, says Brodykin3505. I agree, man. I agree. Listen, Bondi is the bottleneck in all of this. Bondi is the absolute bottleneck in all of this. And truthfully, that's because the Attorney General, the U.S. Attorney General position, is a man's job. And it was given to a bimbo woman who's playing too nice, and truthfully, she's playing chicken shit because I have a feeling she's worried about Democrat retaliation in the future. She's literally worried, I think, because she saw Trump go through that in Florida to some extent. She's worried that whatever she does now will come back to bite her if and when Democrats regain control. And we just don't need somebody like that in that position. We need somebody like a Tom Homan motherfucker to be the U.S. Attorney General who's going to just attack everything. That's what that position needs to be, not what we currently have. There's also rumors. I've been meaning to make a video on Pam Bondi as well. I actually have a whole thing pulled up, ready to go on it for sometime in the future. Be sure to subscribe if you want to see that. Give this stream a like, by the way. It helps in the algorithm. And turn on notifications. Otherwise, the YouTube algorithm hates me and won't notify you when I'm going live or posting videos. But there's rumors that Pam Bondi is engaged in some sort of fraudulent activities, and that could explain a lot too. But those are just rumors, and I will emphasize that. Dude is an incel fascist. My brother in Christ, I am not in a cell. I am currently at my place of dwelling, which is not in a prison. You don't get to demand shit, chump. Okay, thank you. You know what I can demand? I can demand that you shut the fuck up. And if you don't, I'll just deport you from the stream. How do you feel about Trump almost doubling his wealth in the last year? I am critical of Trump. I am not a MAGA cheerleader. I voted for Trump. I think overall, first of all, I will say the cliche, it's better to have him than Kamala. But I'm critical of Trump. You know, his whole Trump coin thing was bullshit. And I'm critical of Trump because he doesn't go far enough. I want to see so much. We were promised a dictator with Trump, and we're not getting it. And it's actually disappointing. It's very disappointing. I was actually going to say that. I'm glad you brought him up. My final fear in all of this is now that we're in an election year with the midterms, my final fear is that Trump is getting ready to actually ease off the throttle when it comes to immigration. Low Becker 8784 are heading to Leering Center. This is the Leering Center. You guys are in the Leering Center right now. Get prepared to leer, okay? The Trump administration is showing signs of weakness when it comes to immigration. They're showing signs that they're ready to ease off the throttle, and I'm worried about that. I'm looking back on the historic patterns now. We have a previous Trump administration to sort of cross-reference, and he kind of did this in his first term as well, right? Let me take a sip here. Mouth's getting dry. So much talking. We kind of have this previous administration of his to look back on, and there was a pattern that I witnessed in that first administration when it came to immigration. Trump promised the border wall, and Trump also promised, by the way, to deport tons of people, and he kind of did. But the problem was, like what we're seeing now, the liberals were meeting that effort with severe resistance and with false rhetoric and narratives like, oh my God, they're putting children in cages. Do you remember that? Do you remember that happening? Because I certainly do. And what I remember, because I'm actually smart, unlike your average liberal IQ, low IQ idiot leftist, I remember the fact that it was actually Obama who built those cages and had actually started putting the children in them. The Trump administration just kept following through with that, right? And I'm a big supporter of Alligator Alcatraz, mind you. So, you know, I don't have a problem with that to begin with. They're only temporary cages. It's not like we keep them in there for 20 years. They're just in there so that they can go through the process of being deported. I don't see anything wrong with that, in all honesty. They're not supposed to be in this country. You know how you don't get put in as you know how you don't get put into a cage here in America? Be here legally. Don't commit any crimes, major ones. I've never been put into a cage, okay? Now, but the liberals put up such a fuss about it. And the Trump administration was so concerned in their first administration about that narrative, children in cages, that Tom Homan had to create some sort of new policy where they weren't going to do that. The family separations bullshit that they tried back then, right? And what ultimately wound up happening was the Trump administration completely failed the agenda to deport people back then. And even in 2020, Trump was still in office, and we had a terrible year when it came to illegal immigrants crossing the border, immigration-wise. Terrible. Before Biden even got in. Then Biden gets in and he opens up the borders entirely and allows tens of millions of them to pour into this nation. And now what we're seeing is you can hear it, and you can literally hear it when Trump is talking about immigration. How do you turn on subtitles? I'm not sure, Pillows. We can't really understand. I'm not sure how to turn on subtitles for this. I don't know if it dubs it automatically. You can catch the video afterwards. That might be a feature. But what we're seeing now is Trump is easing off the throttle almost, it seems, with some of this stuff. Just recently, he was talking again about how they're not going to deport illegal immigrants working on a farm or in the hotel industry. And I didn't vote for Trump for that. I voted for absolute deportations of everybody. In my eyes, all of those are American jobs, every single one of them. But the bottom line is Trump is worried about the midterms coming up. He's worried about the imagery now of deporting all these people. He's worried about incidents happening like what just happened with this, what was his name again? Pretti? Can't remember even his last name. His name's not even worth remembering because he was a joke and he died as a joke pretty much. But that Pretti guy, that Alex Pretti, Renee Good, these are bad images that the liberals prey on, and they use these images to like infect the minds of the main populace. Oh my God, ICE is the Gestapo and they're just so brutal and they wear masks and blah, blah, blah. Who cares? Fulfill the mandate that America gave to you. That's how I view this. But the Trump administration, they're worried about losing the midterms, and he's easing off the throttle, it looks like. I'm going to keep an eye on it. I hope he doesn't, but that's a main concern of mine. And if he does that again, it's just, to me, it's going to be like history repeating itself. Because changing the narrative back in his first term, family separation, dealing with that issue, didn't allow Republicans to maintain the midterms at all then either. So it's like, you have to get a guy in who's going to make the sacrifice play and is going to just continue deporting people regardless of the consequences of that. Lou Becker 8784. Hey, thank you, man. This host is great. Thank you. Appreciate you. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. In the name of Jesus, please help Trump supporters to stop hating their fellow Americans. These are not Americans, Duff Nug. These are illegal immigrants who don't belong here. Get them out of this country. Get them out. Deport every single one of them. 9-year-old illegal immigrant, deport them. 80-year-old illegal immigrant, deport them. And on the topic of children being used as bait, that was the final thing I wanted to address in this stream. That's patently false, and we have proof of it now. What we actually have proof of is the fact that, I know this will be a big surprise to all of you, but the child was abandoned by its parents when they noticed an ICE presence. Does that shock anybody, though? Let's be honest with ourselves. A third worlder parent abandoning their child in the name of freedom, in the name of trying to escape ICE, should that really surprise anybody? I know it doesn't. It didn't surprise me when that information came out. And so this whole claim that ICE is using children as bait, nah. Now, if they're following school buses, that's a different story, but I'm in support of that. I'm in support of all of that. We need to take back our cities. Duff has been smoking too many nugs. Yeah. You get these Christians out here and they're such a pathetic, like he's praying about hate, like this is just a typical Christian pussy bitch man who probably can't fight his way out of a wet paper bag. He was raised on the whole God is love and God is tolerance, feminist bullshit that has plagued Christianity now. Western Christianity is a joke. It's not true Christianity. It is bastardized. It has been taken over by feminism. They want tolerance, but if you read your Bible, God is pretty much anything but tolerant. God is actually the opposite of tolerant. We should be living in fear of God. He's not some sky daddy that loves you no matter what you do. You need to be obedient to God. You need to be advancing God's kingdom, and you need to be taking your country seriously. Not preaching God is love. It's okay. It's okay, brother. Commit any crime you want. God loves you anyway. No, that's not the point of Christianity. It makes me sick. It's so disgusting what feminism did to Christianity in this country. That is not true Christianity. God is love, but God is a lot more than love. God is wrath. God is anger. God is justice. These are all the things that make people uncomfortable, though, so nobody ever wants to hear that. I don't know what that means, Lou Becker. I don't know what point you're trying to make there. Anyways, that's what I wanted to hop on here to say, honestly. I don't really have too much to add to this at this point. Just remember something. Law and order is the chieftain principle of any country. It's why I'm not a libertarian anymore. Libertarians champion freedom over everything, but freedom without law and order is just chaos. You must have law and order. That is the hierarchy. And if you have no law and order, you have no country. Glory to America. God bless the USA. Thanks for everybody who tuned in here. Old Testament, God is wrath. New Testament, which is true Christian. No, no, no. See, that's the wrong wording right there. Old Testament is not true Christianity, is it? Really? What is it then? Really? Did God change? The answer to that, of course, is no. Just that you're right on. Thank you, Lou Becker. Thank you, man. Appreciate you. Pastor Gravy. Yeah, you better read. Yeah, exactly. Let me before I go, let me cover that real fast. Jewish is Old Testament? Absolutely not. That's so fucking stupid. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but the Old Testament has the 10 Commandments. Okay, do we not follow the 10 Commandments then? Like, please stop being so fucking brain dead. To answer Sojourner real fast, I do want to discuss that because that is funny. It's very ironic, actually, right? It seems like people are just destined to be disappointed with Christ's return in both instances, no matter what happens. Because when Christ first returned, they were disappointed that he didn't come as the lion. He came as lamb, and they went, what the fuck is this? We wanted a champion, and we're getting this guy who's here to save people, and he's here to preach a message, and he's not standing up against the Roman Empire. He's not liberating us. He clearly isn't the Son of God. Let's put him to death. Now, let me swig some water. Now, he's been crucified for our sins. We're all saved, or potentially we're all saved if we accept that, right? And I shouldn't even use the word accept because that doesn't align with my doctrine, but you get what I'm saying. Now, we're waiting for him to return again, and people act as if Jesus is coming back as a lamb. He's not. He's actually coming back as the lion that they wanted him to be all of those millennia ago. And people are woefully unprepared for that. People have this, like I said, it's this feminine idea in their mind of what Jesus is. If Jesus was here, he'd be kind to immigrants. Yeah, maybe he would. You know what else he'd tell them to do? He'd tell them to respect the laws of the land, just like he told his disciples to do. We're talking about the same guy here who flipped over tables in the temple and drove people out with whips. We're talking about the same guy here who said, give to Caesar what is Caesar's when it came to taxes. We're talking about the same guy here, God, Jesus Christ, the Son, who also instructed people that when a Roman soldier instructed you to carry their load for 1 mile, which was lawful, but not more than 1 mile under Roman law, to go 2 miles. Carry it even more. Go beyond. Show them the love of Christ by not only following the law, but following the law even better than most would. That's who Jesus Christ was. And so, is it biblical then for me to say, let's not just deport the illegal immigrant violent criminals, but let's go to the full letter of the law and deport every single illegal immigrant out of this country, regardless on whether or not they've committed a crime or not after getting here. The crime was they came here illegally. Do you see how that fits now? You may not like that because you're a pussy feminized Christian bitch in this country, but true Christianity preaches strength, preaches law and order, and preaches following those laws. Understand? I'm not MAGA, SG. I'm not MAGA. He also said, welcome immigrants. Pasta gravy. Yeah, take a look at this. That Bible verse, I just explained it. You probably weren't here for that. That Bible verse was written at a time when people were nomadic. This was written at a time when traveling was done on foot, not in a car or a fucking airplane. And this was written at a time when there were 2 countries and you were going from one to the other. You could either go around the foreign country to get to your destination and travel through a hot desert and risk death, or you could travel through the civilized country that wasn't your country. That Bible verse was written for travelers, not people trying to invade a country and then stay there permanently. Be kind to strangers in your land and treat them as your own was written in the context of they're passing through your country. They might need to stay there for a few days as they continuously walk through it. Be kind to them. Give them a place to sleep and feed them well as they're on their way to their destination, as they eventually leave your country. That's what that was written for. That's the context of that Bible verse. Nobody talks about that. Nobody talks about that. Everybody always treats that as an anti-borders Bible verse. It's not. It's actually a Bible verse that establishes the fact that there are borders, that there are separate sovereign countries, and that people will oftentimes, especially at that time, pass through them while they're traveling. It is Christian to follow laws, says coup contra coup. Coup contra coup. Yes, thank you. So the God couldn't predict the future and had to change his mind. Yeah, exactly. Well, see, Jay, try. I don't know who you're even talking to here, but God doesn't change. People always say, oh, there's the Old Testament and the New. The New Testament's Christianity. They're both Christianity. God hasn't changed. God has not changed at all. He doesn't change. He's already perfect. Sojourner 2112. It's an inconvenient truth for them. Absolutely. And the silence from Pasta Gravy is deafening. That's pretty much all I got to say, though. I came on just to cover those stories. Just remember, the liberal media, they're preaching a narrative. Don't buy it. We need to deport everybody. That's the messaging here. It is what it is. Don't blame Trump. Blame Joe Biden. These people should have never been allowed into this country. And the Democrats did it so that they could literally replace Americans. The fate of our nation is at stake. And that's why every single deportation matters. It needs to be ramped up. That's really the truth here. If I were president, I would not only increase the ICE agent force by tenfold, but I would start hiring bounty hunters. Put bounties out on these illegal immigrants. Let the bounty hunters help ICE. We need to get the numbers up. We need millions of deportations a year, not several 100,000. Good chat, bro. Thank you, Lou Becker. No more amnesty, says Brodykin. Amen. No more amnesty. And no more people coming here legally and breaking laws. I know I'm trying to sign off here, but you guys keep me going. Ilhan Omar, she should have her citizenship revoked. She should have been deported. Not only should somebody like Ilhan Omar have her citizenship revoked, but she should also have her assets seized, and all of that should be sold to pay off national debt in this country, or even diversified amongst the American people in her state. She should then be deported with nothing but the clothing on her back to Somalia and left there, permanently banned from re-entry to America. Like, why do we tolerate this? We act like we owe the world all of this bullshit. We don't owe them anything. Immigration in the future, the standpoint of immigration after we close the borders down for 20 years ideally and don't allow any immigration while we fix ourselves internally, when we decide it's time, like I said, we need to discriminate against a lot of these third world. No more third world immigration. None of that. We don't owe them a thing. And when we allow immigration in the future again, we need to view it from the lens of what can they add to our country? How can they help us? Because if they can't, they don't belong here. It is sickening to see immigrants come here and live off of welfare. That should not be a thing. Immigrants should be barred from receiving welfare. No SNAP benefits, no food stamps, no welfare, no income monthly from the government. If you come to this country and you are on welfare within a month, you're clearly not going to make it here. You're not contributing anything at that point. You're literally taking away. Only American citizens should be eligible for welfare. They are barred from all of those things. Yeah, that's what they say, right? Yeah. They're barred. They already can't receive welfare. Tell me you're an idiot without telling me you're an idiot. They can't receive it though. There's no proof any of them have ever received it. Fucking open your eyes. Read a fucking news article. My God. You look very violent and angry. Why? You're full of hate. And that's why you say, and what you say makes no fucking sense. Hate, hate, hate. Well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to have hurt your precious little feelings, Weena Nina. Why don't you go watch somebody like David Pakman or Brian Krastenstein? They're probably more your speed, okay? Meanwhile, just hop off this fucking channel. Fucking bimbo. Do you have proof of what you are saying? Do I have proof of what I am saying? What's that? That the illegal immigrants have received welfare? How about you use Google? Have you ever heard of Google? Or even better, we're in the age of AI. Why don't you ask AI? Do I have proof? What do you want me to do? Pull out some sort of government official paperwork? It's all over the internet. You just need to stop searching, why am I right? And instead start searching illegal immigrants receiving welfare. Start with that, okay? I mean, that should be a no-brainer. I'm not even anti-deportation, but let's not lie. Who's spewing lies, Jose? I am? Clueless. Oh, God. You know, your last name's Nina. It sounds like you need to have ICE called on you. If you Google it, you'll know. It's not hard to. I'm assuming you're actually standing up for me, Jose. And if you are, thank you. Because It's just the truth. Like, you can't expect tens of millions of illegal immigrants to come in here and for the system to work so perfectly that none of them receive welfare. Give me a fucking break. Give me a give me a break. Are you kidding me? Oh, look at this guy. A lecture. Just what we needed from David Plosh, 6825. We need a lecture for everybody in Germany and how we should look at the history of the 1930s there because our country is deeply disturbing to him. Oh, poor baby. Hey, how about you stay in Germany and how about you continue to reap the benefits of us protecting you with our US military while your country reallocates those funds instead of to the defense budget like they're supposed to and back into the society instead to allow you to live in your perfect socialist society that's all built off of the lie that America isn't fully subsidizing you. Please, please, David. Thanks for your opinion. Just what we want, a lecture from a European. God, so pompous, so fucking stupid. Heard there was a drop gun used. I don't know if it was the same incident. Not sure. Yeah, Brodykin, seriously. The European Union is a mess. I mean, honestly, he wants to come in here as a German and tell us what's going on in our country. No, thank you. Unreal. Dude, the immigration there is crazy. They need, listen, Germany needs our ICE agents now, and they're not going to get them. The even more ironic thing about that, right, is that the European Union is just allowing their borders to stay open. They don't recognize their own country's sovereignty over there, right? But the second we want Greenland, all of a sudden, oh, there's borders though. You can't just cross into Greenland, Trump. Those are sovereign people. And then they send their military to defend Greenland, right? But they won't defend their own country from illegal immigrants. That is liberal hypocrisy on full display. Sharia law now in Austria. Well, you know what? Am I like how at some point how much sympathy do you extend to these people? That's the question that I ask. You know, it reminds me of kind of like how women are now complaining about like trans men playing in sports and bulldozing through women and like injuring them. To that I say like good. Women are the ones that vote for that bullshit. I think it's hilarious to watch some guy just steamroll through women in their own sports. Women vote for that. They're majority liberal. And so when I look at a lot of these countries, is there some sympathy on my end? Yeah, because there's obviously not every citizen there that wants that. But it's like Europeans vote for this kind of leadership, then they grandstand against America on the world stage with their leaders. They pretend that their socialist society that's all built off of American dollars and military protection is superior to our capitalist one. They come after our capitalism. They pretend like we're the evil of the world, the big bad evil empire. Meanwhile, it's like their country's being invaded and they voted for the leaders that allow it. They're getting what they deserve. I had the same viewpoint when Biden was in office, by the way. My personal friends at the time, I even said, you know what? 4 years of Biden might actually be really good for this nation because people only decide true change is necessary when they can no longer tolerate something. Everyone that's always begging for change and not getting it doesn't understand it's because everyone's tolerating too much. And that's why, that's to circle fully back to the conversation we were having about religion here, that's why I have such a problem with Western Christianity. I am a Christian. I'm a born-again Christian. But I was raised under this feminist blanket over Christianity that preaches tolerance and love. And it's like, you know, certainly we're not supposed to be going out there committing acts of violence, but tolerance and love? Where is that in the Bible? There's more examples in the Bible of where that isn't than where it is. God is love, but God is so much more. And, you know, tolerance is what's allowed our society to crumble. I was raised being told, you know, love is love. All love is love. All love's love. Now we have trans men giving lap dances to children. Like, this is what Christianity did. We're supposed to be the salt of the earth and preserving society, like salt preserves meat. We've preserved nothing. Our religion has allowed all this to crumble. The church is absolutely to blame for that. Fake Christian going to hell. Oh, thank you. Appreciate you, pussy. Jesus talks a lot about tolerance and love. Yes, he does. He absolutely does. In the New Testament, he does. But tolerating people who are in sin is not actually one of our duties. But that's the easy path that a lot of Christians take. It's just easier that way. Just easier. They're allergic to confrontation, right? And that's feminism. That's the effect feminism's had on this country. It's ruined Christianity. Don't confront people. Don't force your religion down people's throats. Don't openly talk about religion or politics. Look where that's gotten us. Are you happy with America currently as a society? I know I'm not. I don't have to be Jesus to love him. I looked up your exact words on Google. Good, that's a good start. Now go to some good sources on it too. Actually look beyond the first few searches because Google, I don't know if you know this, but Google is run by liberals. And so when you scroll down and you see the first 3, 4, 5 search results even, it's all going to be liberal articles enforcing the liberal narrative. This is how real research has to be done nowadays, sadly, because the liberals are too much, they're too ingrained in our institutions and they control too much when it comes to narrative. You are a fanatic nut bar. Thank you. That's the sweetest thing anybody's ever said to me. Conservative crybaby. Does it look like I'm crying? That's what liberal men do, who've chopped off their dick. Have you done that, Geomaster? Are you feeling like a woman today? God loves you anyway, though, right? Unreal. Makes me want to vomit. All right, I'm going to sign off from here pretty much, though. Oh, no, free speech is a must. That's why TSA should not be looking through phones. That's a topic for a different day. Anyways, thanks to everybody who tuned in on this live stream here. Deport all of them. If you see any illegal immigrants in your city, call ICE. Get them deported. Have no mercy. If they're 8 years old, they don't belong in your city. If they're 93 years old, they don't belong in your city. If they're here illegally, they don't belong. That's how it works. We must take back America. America is for Americans. It's not a color thing. Anybody born here legally to legalized citizens is an American. Anybody who was allowed in during the Biden administration to cross our borders illegally needs to leave. That's what I'll leave you with. Glory to America, this beautiful American empire. God bless the USA.